Su Chen thinks back to a past life, remembering a time he wandered through ruins and eventually stumbled upon a sanctuary, a utopian base where society seemed to have gotten everything right. There were no class struggles, no one complaining about missing meals, and everyone actually looked relaxed. It was a place where the dream of a peaceful, well-fed existence had come true. This perfect balance owed its existence to Gao Yue, the visionary behind it all. In the present, Gao Yue serves as the deputy city lord, a far cry from the future visionary he's supposed to become. Su Chen realizes that Gao hadn't even thought of building his own utopia until he uncovered the dark, corrupted secrets of his current base and decided to build his own haven. But this time, thanks to Su Chen's meddling, the chain of events is speeding up like a food delivery during a lunch hour rush. Meanwhile, the short, silver-haired girl blurts out with all the grace of someone who just realized their pizza order got messed up, moaning that building a base is way too hard. Her partner tries to keep a straight face, arguing that if they ever want to do things their way, they can't keep living under someone else's roof. It's better to establish a new base, even if it's tough. After all, freedom doesn't come with a one-click setup button. The city lord can barely contain his glee as he mocks the group's ambition to build a new base, laughing so hard it's like he just heard the world's most ridiculous knock-knock joke. With a smirk that could wilt a flower, he points out the countless dangers lurking beyond the city walls, emphasizing that they probably won't even manage to scrape together basic necessities for survival, let alone figure out how to defend themselves. It's as if he's predicting they'll struggle to keep a campfire going, never mind survive a monster attack. Beside him, his son, who now sits in a wheelchair and seems to have inherited the family gift for arrogance, smirks and tells his father that the group will regret leaving. He's confident they'll come crawling back for help like kids who thought they could move out after one cooking lesson. The city lord grins, wholeheartedly agreeing with his son's assessment. He's practically radiating confidence in their eventual failure, as if he's already won the I Told You So trophy of the year. Meanwhile, two men in the crowd look like they've just seen their lives flash before their eyes. They express genuine fear about venturing into the dangerous world beyond, clearly unwilling to take that risk. One of them, wearing an expression so resigned it could double as a give-up meme, announces he'd rather live as a coward and survive than face certain death. It's not a heroic declaration, but he figures staying alive beats becoming lunch for whatever's out there. With a mocking grin and arms spread wide, the city lord taunts the group, practically basking in their ambitious dreams just for the entertainment value. He makes it abundantly clear that once they step out of the city's safe embrace, their fate is none of his concern, and you won't even bother to lift a ladybag to help if no when they fail. Su Chen, sitting comfortably on the back of Devourer clan's leader and looking about as concerned as someone who's misplaced his sock, brushes off the group's worries about securing food. His relaxed, almost blasé attitude leaves the others dumbfounded. They can't wrap their heads around how he's so calm about something they think is more complicated than winning a game of chess against a grandmaster. Su Chen meets their doubts head-on, eyes blazing with determination. He declares that if General Gao has the resolve to lead their group successfully, then securing food will be his responsibility and he'll handle it without breaking a sweat. It's the kind of confident statement that makes you wonder if he's secretly hiding superpowers or just a really good game plan. The city lord's son isn't having any of it. He yells at Su Chen, accusing him of being delusional, of dreaming way too big for someone working with such limited resources. But Su Chen stays cool, almost annoyingly composed. With a casual air, he mentions that he already has enough supplies stocked to support 2,000 people for about a month. His nonchalant tone lands like a bombshell, making everyone wonder if he's been playing a very elaborate game of resource hide and seek. Hearing this, the city lord nearly chokes on his disbelief, comparing Su Chen's claim to his own carefully guarded stockpile. To his shock, there isn't much of a difference. Suspicion creeps into his mind as he wonders where Su Chen could possibly have gotten so many resources. He pauses, staring blankly into space with his cigarette dangling uselessly from his lips, like a man who's forgotten how to smoke. Nearby, one of the city lord's thugs is still trying to process this bizarre revelation when, out of nowhere, Union descends from above. She lands on the thug with the subtlety of a piano crashing onto a cartoon character, catching him completely off guard. Before he can even blink, she's turned him into a human pancake, quite literally, a tomato paste splatter. Standing over the unfortunate thug, Union clenches her fists in frustration, muttering about Su Chen's newfound generosity. She turns to Du Wenye, demanding to know why Su Chen is acting like he's the Santa Claus of survival supplies. With a calm sigh, Du Wenye explains that Su Chen just emptied the base's entire storage, which explains his sudden charitable attitude. Union blinks, taking in the explanation, and throws her arms around Du Wenye in an impulsive hug as her mood instantly shifts from fury to relief. Union clutches her stomach, groaning dramatically to Du Wenye about how painfully hungry she is. insisting she desperately needs something to eat. Dunya isn't impressed, reprimanding Union for using her powers so recklessly. Union, looking a bit sheepish, admits she's reached her limit and is running on empty. It's hard to fight evil on an empty stomach after all. Meanwhile, Su Chen speaks into a communication device, his voice calm but commanding as he informs someone that they are fully prepared. His expression turns serious as he looks over at General Gao, urging him that it's time to make the final decision. The air feels heavy, like a storm about to break, as everyone waits for Gao's next move. General Gao stands, fists clenched, shouting in frustration as he reflects on everything he's sacrificed just to keep his people alive. Anger simmers beneath the surface, boiling over as he reflects that despite all his efforts, they'd been reduced to nothing more than livestock, powerless, and trapped. The thought stings worse than a slap to the face, and he knows he can't endure it for even a second longer. With a determined expression, General Gao makes his choice. He declares his decision to join forces with Su Chen, eyes blazing with resolve. His gaze is unwavering, full of seriousness and hope for this new beginning. It's a moment that feels like stepping off a cliff, only this time he's determined to fly. General Gao raises his fists high, rallying his brothers who are brave enough to follow him. He calls for those willing to leave this oppressive life behind, urging them to step forward. With fiery passion, he declares their mission, to build a new base where everyone can live with dignity, rather than just scraping by like street dogs in their current miserable conditions. Two of the commanders respond with equal fervor, rallying their teams with booming voices. One calls for the Blue Tiger Squad, while the other calls for the White Tiger Squad. In unison, they command their forces to gather, ready to join General Gao on this daring mission. Amidst this uproar, the city lord watches in sheer disbelief as chaos breaks out around him. His face contorts like he's just bitten into a lemon, demanding to know what's happening as his personal soldiers rush into action, adding fuel to the already explosive scene. Confusion spreads through the area like wildfire, with everyone scrambling in different directions. Fury consumes the city lord. He raises his voice, shouting that he is the true ruler of the city. His clenched fists and harsh tone demand loyalty, insisting that everyone around him fall in line like a well-trained choir and serve him without question. Meanwhile, a soldier approaches General Gao, reporting that all troops ready to join him are gathered. Rows of soldiers stand in formation, waiting for their next orders, their faces set with determination. The city lord, watching this unfold, erupts in fury. His face twists with rage as he shouts at General Gao, demanding to know what they think they're doing. He insists that no one will leave without his permission, making it crystal clear that he alone holds authority. Trying to regain control, the city lord's soldiers raise their rifles in unison, ready to fire. The whole scene is tense, like a slow-motion standoff in an action movie, except with real consequences. In the middle of this, the city lord's son, sitting in his wheelchair, suddenly loses his cool completely. He grabs his gun, shouting that Su Chen is the reason for his injury. Blaming Su Chen for every bad thing that's happened to him. He fires his gun like he's playing a one-man shooting game with no pause button. Su Chen stays calm, but his eyes flash with anger. Just as a bullet whizzes toward him, he dodges with smooth precision. He makes it clear that he's ready to retaliate. With swift, precise movements, he dodges more bullets, leaping through the air like he's done this 1,000 times. The city lord's son continues firing wildly, desperately trying to hit Su Chen. His frustration grows with each missed shot. Su Chen skillfully dodges each shot, moving with the ease of someone who's done this 100 times. His eyes glow an intense red as he stands his ground, and he delivers a punch so powerful it sends the city lord's son flying through the air. Su Chen then seizes the man by the throat, lifting him with hardly any effort. His voice is cold, and he makes a deadly threat, warning that he'll snap his neck if the other soldiers don't surrender. The city lord's son cries out in pain, and even the surrounding soldiers are starting to look like they're watching a horror movie they didn't sign up for. The city lord's face twists in fury and desperation. Veins bulge on his forehead as he grits his teeth, his eyes blazing with anger. He knows Su Chen has him cornered, but he's not one to give in easily. Finally, after a tense moment, he barks the order for his soldiers to lower their weapons, his reluctance showing in every word. The soldiers lower their guns, realizing they don't have much choice here. After all, there's not much point in standing tall when the other guy's lifting your boss's son like a sack of potatoes. With a calm authority, Su Chen tells General Gao to lead the refugees to safety, while he is staying behind to handle things here. Meanwhile, the city lord, tense and calculating, pulls a classic villain move. He gives a subtle, almost sinister nod to the soldier standing behind him. The soldier nods back, acknowledging the silent command, and it's clear something shady is brewing in the background. The city lord, desperate to keep Su Chen on the line, offers him a deal. If Su Chen releases his son, he'll let him leave in peace. He's suddenly bargaining like a flea market vendor, clinging to any scrap of control he can get. But of course, there's more to his peaceful offer than meets the eye. It turns out that nod to his right-hand man was a silent signal, and now on the rooftop, the city lord's sniper is locked in position. The sniper's rifle is aimed with deadly precision, his eyes narrowed and focused, ready to pull the trigger if things start to go sideways. Meanwhile, Su Chen speaks calmly through his earpiece, relaying critical information to Duanya. He directs her attention to the rooftop at the 12 o'clock position, signaling the potential threat. Duanya immediately acknowledges and adjusts, readying her rifle as she zeroes in on the rooftop target. Before she takes her shot, Duan warns Union to stay still and for once not to tease her. The last thing she needs is Union cracking jokes about target practice while she's trying to save lives. With a sharp muzzle flash, Duanya's rifle fires, sending a bullet flying toward its mark with deadly precision. The sniper doesn't have a second to react. Her shot lands perfectly, and his head explodes in a violent burst of blood and energy. The force of the impact is final, leaving no chance for survival. In a single ruthless instant, the threat is neutralized. The city lord is frozen in shock and terror, yelling in disbelief as he realizes Su Chen had his own sniper in position. Su Chen, calm and unbothered, is still gripping his son by the throat. After a moment of thought, Su Chen agrees to the deal, assuring the city lord he'll return his son. As per their earlier agreement, his hand loosens slightly, making it look like he's about to release the terrified young man. But in a twist, Su Chen suddenly hurls the city lord's son through the air. The city lord, too stunned to react right away, only manages to half-catch his son, still trying to process what just happened. Before anyone can recover, Su Chen drops a chilling remark saying he still has one more question left to ask. His eyes glow with an eerie purple light as he coldly asks the city lord whether human flesh tastes good. The question hits the city lord like a slap, and he realizes his dark secret is out. Panic fills his eyes as he stammers, trying to figure out how Su Chen could have uncovered the truth. But just then, he spots something horrifying. A grenade is stuffed in his son's mouth, prime and ready to explode. In the next moment, the grenade detonates, unleashing a massive explosion that engulfs everything in flames and sends shockwaves through the area. When the smoke clears, there's hardly anything left of the city lord's son. Only his two hands remain, gruesomely scattered on the ground. The city lord, still reeling from the blast, undergoes a terrifying transformation, his human form twisting and contorting until he becomes a monstrous creature. Apparently, karma doesn't just bite, it mutates. The city lord, now transformed into a towering beast, radiates fury as he roars, his eyes glowing a deep, menacing red. His body, battered and torn from the clash, radiates raw anger as he braces to charge at Su Chen. Meanwhile, Su Chen stands calmly atop the rooftop, watching the enraged city lord below. Soon, Duan Ya and Yumian join him. Observing the city lord's uncontrollable rage, Su Chen muses over the rumors from his past life, so it was true, after all. Zhang Jianshu, the city lord, is indeed a devourer, lurking in disguise among humans. Duanya whispers to Su Chen, mentioning they have arrived, but Su Chen, still fixated on the scene, notes with a hint of surprise that he hadn't expected Zhang Jianshu to be a level 2 devourer. With a steady gaze, Su Chen's own eyes begin to glow a dangerous red, and a dark energy swirls ominously around him. With an icy calm, he silently vows that next time, if they cross paths again, luck isn't going to save the city lord. Captain Napoleon and his group move forward, eyes set on the supermarket up ahead. Rumor has it that it's packed of valuable supplies. Their mission is pretty straightforward. Clear out any enemies, grab everything useful, and haul it all back to their new base. With a fierce look, the captain signals them to charge, and the team races forward, full of adrenaline, only to freeze in surprise. Ahead of them, they see something unexpected. The enemies are already down, lying lifeless on the ground, defeated by someone else. After a quick check, they confirm that the supplies are neatly packed in the truck, and there's plenty of fuel to make it back to base. One of the men comments that Su Chen wasn't kidding, there's really a whole truckload of supplies here. But Captain Napoleon, with his usual pride, can't bring himself to give any credit to Su Chen. After all, sharing the spotlight has never been his strong suit. The captain sighs, disappointed and a bit sulky, as he'd been expecting an intense fight, not a stroll to pick up groceries. He mutters to himself that this whole mission feels like a waste of time. Sensing an opportunity to stir things up, Napoleon's right-hand man leans over, casually mentioning that he'd heard the general gave Su Chen a much bigger mission. Important tasks like that used to be Napoleon's specialty, and he clearly wasn't thrilled about the change. Hearing this, Napoleon's face turns sour. He grumbles that Su Chen is nothing more than a pretty boy, far too inexperienced to compete for real credit. In the distance, a tall communication tower stands proudly under the vast sky, marking a crucial point of contact, one that, no doubt, We'll keep them connected through missions like this, even the unexpectedly easy ones. Union and Duanya wait impatiently at the top of the tower, wondering why the team leader hasn't returned yet. Duanya, calm as ever, leans back and assures Union that the enemies at the supermarket have already been taken care of. She says all that's left is for the team to bring back the supplies. Even brain-rot Mr. Napoleon can handle that. Union, however, can't shake her frustration. She says no one is worried about that Napoleon. Su Chen had asked them to handle the refugees' medical care, and she is more concerned about those people starving to death. Just as she grows more anxious, Duanya spots the approaching truck in the distance. She says that they can finally return now, as once they are close, it will be hard to use power to cloak Union's size. Back at the base, the supplies are unloaded and approval comes through for a job well done. The people around are in disbelief, realizing that Su Chen has truly found enough supplies to solve their food shortage. Voices of gratitude ripple through the crowd, and before long they're praising Su Chen as their hero. But not everyone shares in the celebration. Captain Napoleon scoffs bitterly, seeing the praise as proof of Su Chen's skill at winning people over. Just then, a soldier delivers a report about a nearby hospital occupied by Devourer tribe. It looks like a tribe of a few dozen. With a renewed determination, Napoleon decides he'll prove his own strength, determined to show Su Chen who truly has the power to protect the people. Meanwhile, Su Chen, Lady Bai, and Xiao Fang are on a mission of their own. Lady Bai raises an eyebrow in surprise when Su Chen mentions a plan to raid the armory. Lady Bai points out that there's a military base nearby, but the entrance has been flooded for ages, turning it into what's likely a death trap filled with mutated corpses. Xiao Fang chimes in, voicing another concern. Even if they manage to get inside, he wonders how much they could realistically carry out with just the three of them. Su Chen, unbothered and confident, waves off their concerns, telling them not to worry about the details and insisting they just get him to the military warehouse. He mentions, almost too casually, that finding a vehicle won't be a problem. Lady Bai and Xiao Fang share a glance, both rolling their eyes, wondering if he's planning to pull a miracle out of thin air. Suddenly, right before their eyes, a vehicle appears out of nowhere, leaving Lady Bai and Xiao Fang stunned. They exchange glances, caught between awe and confusion, wondering if what they just witnessed was magic or some kind of special ability Su Chen has been keeping under wraps. Su Chen, now settled in the driver's seat, urges Lady Bai and Xiao Fang to stop chatting and jump in so they can get moving. Without waiting for another word, the yellow vehicle roars to life, speeding through the city streets, leaving a faint trail of energy in its wake. Meanwhile, frustration boils over among another group led by a man whose patience has clearly run out. He's had enough of the obstacles, especially the lurking water ghouls, and decides to use a ruthless tactic to clear the path to the military base. With a wave of his hand, he angrily orders his men to throw some expendables into the water, intending them as bait for the creatures below. Despite their panicked protests, the group grabs one unfortunate soul and tosses him into the murky depths, where the creatures eagerly wait below. The man observes the scene with a twisted sense of satisfaction, declaring to his group that the water ghouls have been successfully lured away. Raising his voice, he announces an extra incentive for the next brave, or perhaps desperate, soul. Whoever goes down to pry open the door will receive a special reward from the city lord himself, a woman of his choosing upon their return. One of his poor men, determined to change his fortunes in this harsh apocalypse, steps forward with a grim resolve. With nothing left to lose, he declares he'll give everything. He has to survive and succeed. Hidden behind a tree, Xiao Fang watches the group, recognizing them instantly as the city lord's men. A realization hits him: they're also after the supplies and military arsenal at the base. He stays hidden, knowing that this sudden competition just made their mission a lot more complicated. Lady Bai informs Su Chen that she knows a hidden route to avoid the city lord's men, but there's a catch: they'll need to swim underwater to get there. Without hesitation, the group dives in, moving quietly through the murky water as they proceed with a plan. Lady Bai swims cautiously, her eyes scanning the water, but suddenly she notices something strange, a series of faint, glowing eyes appearing all around her. The realization strikes her with a jolt. They're surrounded by water ghouls. A flicker of panic crosses Lady Bai's face as her lungs begin to burn from the lack of air. Just then, Su Chen reaches out to her. She can't believe it when he actually speaks to her underwater. Her mind races, half in awe, wondering how he's managing that. Su Chen draws her close and then touches her lips with his, and it hits her. He's sharing his air, keeping her alive in this dire situation. Lady Bai's eyes widen as she fully grasps just how dangerous their situation has become. They're completely surrounded by an overwhelming number of water ghouls, their eerie eyes watching, waiting. Panic surges and Lady Bai instinctively tries to pull away, but the water ghouls begin reaching out, clawing at her, their hands just inches away. In a swift move, Su Chen pulls her into a protective embrace, shielding her as the danger encircles them, the water growing colder with every passing second. Lady Bai notices that Su Chen has become completely still, and a strange quietness settles around them. The once threatening water ghouls have also halted, suspended in an eerie silence that sends a chill through the water. Lady Bai, now on high alert, studies the sudden stillness, wondering what could have caused it. Then she spots it, Su Chen's eyes beginning to glow faintly with a strange energy. A thought crosses her mind, almost too wild to believe. Could Su Chen actually be controlling the ghouls surrounding them? Holding her close, Su Chen gives her a look that seems to say it all. It's time to turn the tables. He tells her to get ready to hunt. From the depths, more monstrous creatures with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp teeth emerge, closing in fast. The water ripples with an almost unbearable tension as they swarm together, ready to attack. Su Chen stands his ground, completely unfazed by the incoming threat. The ghouls approach, but Su Chen remains calm, his sharp gaze fixed on them, calculating every move. With swift, effortless precision, he strikes down one of the ghouls, barely breaking a sweat. He quickly signals to Lady Bai and Xiao Fang to get to safety, taking on the entire swarm himself. His attacks are powerful and exact, each strike pushing back the relentless wave of monsters surrounding him. It's as if he's orchestrating a dangerous dance with the ghouls, meeting each of their attacks with a flawless counter. Meanwhile, Lady Bai and Xiao Fang swim with urgency, making their way through the water as fast as they can. Despite the chaos, Lady Bai stays focused, her eyes darting around to spot any lurking threat. When they finally burst out of the water, they gasp for breath, pulling themselves to safety. The urgency hangs thick in the air as both scramble to escape whatever might still be hiding below. They can't shake the strange feeling that Su Chen might somehow be controlling the water and the ghouls within it. Moments later, Su Chen emerges from the water, standing tall and composed. He is holding a glowing white crystal core in his hand, its light casting an eerie glow on his face. He complains that he only got one crystal core from all these stupid ghouls. Lady Bai and Xiao Fang, still on edge, keep their eyes fixed on the crystal core, clearly unsettled by the mysterious energy it seems to hold. Lady Bai can't help but express surprise at how quickly he has obtained the white crystal core, still finding it hard to believe. She tells Su Chen why he is still complaining. Xiao Fang, meanwhile, remarks on the possible power contained within, noting that while it may not grant supernatural abilities, it can strengthen one. Su Chen's gaze remains locked on the crystal core in his hand, but then something unexpected catches his attention, a mysterious figure with glowing eyes watching from the shadows. In a sudden burst of speed, the dark figure launches itself toward them. Su Chen reacts instantly, his stance ready for confrontation, but what follows is unlike anything they expected. It turns out to be a black cat that dashes forward and steals the white crystal core from Su Chen's hand. The group stands frozen, stunned by the sight of this mysterious feline appearing in such a dangerous place, seemingly unbothered by the chaos around it. Lady Bai, ever practical, suggests that the base might have kept cats around to control rodents, and perhaps this one managed to slip through unnoticed. But they soon realize this isn't any ordinary cat. Holding the white crystal core in its mouth, the cat stares back at them with an almost smug expression, its eyes gleaming with a hint of mystery. It's as if the cat understands the significance of its prize and is quietly savoring its clever move, having snatched something crucial from Su Chen right under his nose. Su Chen, undeterred, decides to strike a deal with the crafty creature. Holding out a packet of food, he offers it to the cat, his eyes glinting with determination as he tries to negotiate. The cat's response is swift and effortless. With a graceful leap, it lands on Su Chen's shoulder, swipes the food from his hand without a second thought, and, in a blur of motion, disappears into a nearby tunnel. Su Chen is left momentarily stunned, watching the cat's escape with a mix of frustration and amusement. The cat has outsmarted him twice now. Clenching his fist, Su Chen can't help but feel both intrigued and mildly irritated by how this small, mysterious feline has managed to get the better of him not once, but twice. Su Chen can't help but feel a touch of admiration for the clever little creature that managed to outsmart him. However, he turns his attention back to the task at hand. He reaches out and pulls the electricity lever that crackles with energy as it activates. The group pauses, noticing the sudden hum of electricity around them. Lady Bai remarks that the electrical systems are somehow still functioning. They exchange looks, a flicker of cautious optimism in their eyes as they press onward through the tunnel. Their steps grow more purposeful as they approach the military storage facility. Su Chen points out that they're getting close. Lady Bai comments on how fortunate the survivors were to have evacuated just in time to avoid the floodwaters. She speculates, but there's no way they had time to take all the supplies with them. Finally, they reach the military warehouse. Their eyes widen as they take in the stockpiled weaponry and supplies. Lady Bai remarks that there's enough firepower here to equip a force of at least 500 men, if not more. Xiao Fang adds if they find a tank, they might even be able to arm 1,000. Lady Bai warns Xiao Fang to be careful while they search for a tank, reminding him that the last thing they need now is an accident. Xiao Fang, ever confident, reassures her not to worry, waving off her concerns as he heads out to search. Lady Bai then glances around at the stockpiled supplies, noting the obvious challenge. How on earth are they going to transport all of this back? Meanwhile, the little cat is back and from a high perch is watching them intently. Realizing the city lord's military forces are nearby, Lady Bai points out that going back for reinforcements isn't an option anymore. She turns to Su Chen, gripping her weapon, visibly confused by the sudden shift in their situation. Just then, the rumbling of a tank reaches their ears, and Xiao Fang rolls in, proudly announcing his discovery with a big grin. His excitement, however, is short-lived as a monstrous mutated beast emerges, towering over the tank, its glowing pink orbs and razor-sharp teeth creating a terrifying sight. Xiao Fang's face pales as he stares at the beast, his initial thrill replaced with sheer panic. Screaming for help, he scrambles to get away as the creature closes in on him, each step of the beast growing louder and closer, the danger suddenly all too real. The once calm warehouse now pulses with urgency as the team scrambles to figure out their next move in the face of this unexpected threat. Lady Bai stands frozen in shock, her eyes wide as she grasps the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, Xiao Fang, still in the tank, fires a powerful blast of energy directly at the mutated beast. The impact is blindingly bright, and the sheer force of the explosion shakes the ground beneath them. Xiao Fang keeps up the assault, sending one powerful blast after another at the beast. Su Chen, however, quickly realizes the danger and warns the others. Their position near the ammunition depot could mean disaster if any of the attack triggers an explosion. With a determined look, Su Chen decides to take matters into his own hands. He activates his spatial space ability, creating a glowing grid surrounded by a soft blue aura to shift all the weaponry to his magical space. Just as he manipulates the environment, Lady Bai watches, her mouth falling open in awe. She quickly realizes that everything around them, the entire battlefield, is being pulled into a vast spatial realm under. This incredible display of power by Su Chen leaves Lady Bai in disbelief. Even the mysterious black cat watches intently, its glowing eyes reflecting the swirling blue light of the spatial dimension. Slowly, everything around them fades into the spatial dimension. Soon, the whole military base is empty, except the mutated beast and the tank. Xiao Fang, equally surprised, asks Su Chen if the creature can also be absorbed into the spatial dimension. Su Chen shakes his head, stating that living creatures can't be stored within the space. He explains that the space isn't some magic closet that swallows up everything, including creatures with bad breath and sharp teeth. Before he can say more, Lady Bai steps forward, cutting off the conversation, reminding them it's not the time for theoretical debates. With determination, she volunteers to distract the monster, urging Su Chen and Xiao Fang to evacuate, her plan to buy them time clear in her eyes. But just as she's ready to play the hero, Su Chen surprises her by scooping her up and running. Lady Bai protests, insisting he has to return safely with the precious resources, and maybe she could handle the whole distracting the monster thing herself. But Su Chen doesn't slow down, carrying her as if this were all in a day's work, leaving Lady Bai caught between frustration and grudging amusement at his stubbornness. The monstrous creature, however, remains hot on their trail. Xiao Fang shouts a warning to Su Chen, telling him to look back just as the creature opens its gaping mouth, gathering energy into a bright, deadly blast. With a quick reaction, Su Chen leaps into the air, Lady Bai held tightly in his arms, narrowly dodging the massive explosion that erupts behind them. The tank below takes the full impact, shattering into pieces as debris flies in all directions. Once they land, Su Chen gently places Lady Bai on the ground, telling her to check on Xiao Fang while he handles the mutated beast. Lady Bai doesn't argue, rushing to Xiao Fang's side with a fierce determination, half-jokingly telling him he better not dare die on her now. Meanwhile, Su Chen turns to face the towering mutant beast head-on. The creature's glowing purple eyes and vicious fangs make for a terrifying sight, but Su Chen stands unshaken. He observes it curiously, noting to himself that he doesn't remember hearing about a mutant beast like this in the area in his past life. Then he dismisses the thought with a smirk. Whether it's new or not doesn't matter. To him, the crystal cord holds as his for the taking, and he's ready to claim it no matter what. Meanwhile, the city lord's thug stands in stunned silence, jaws slack, as explosions rumble from the mountain's peak. They exchange bewildered glances, trying to process the chaos with the same expression as someone who's just watched their favorite tavern burn down. The leader squints at the distant base, his brain scrambling to figure out who dared to stir up trouble before they even had a chance to show off. One of his subordinates points out that the sound is coming from the direction of the base. As if things couldn't get worse, they notice the water level rapidly dropping around them, and one of them yells that the explosion must have cracked the ground. The leader's frustration is almost comical as he clenches his fists, certain someone else is ruining his plans. He orders his men to hunt down the intruders immediately, with all the authority of a king commanding his subjects, except his subjects seem more interested in their next meal than his orders. Just when he thinks they might actually follow through, one of his lackeys, looking half-starved and fully deranged, spots a rabbit darting through the rubble. The leader watches in exasperation as his men's eyes light up, not with a warrior's fury, but with the gleam of hungry hunters who've just found their next snack. The fierce soldiers devour into a stumbling mess, each one scrambling after the rabbit like it's the last meal he'll ever see. The leader, now sporting a headache to match his rage, realizes he's lost control of his fearsome crew to a creature that weighs about 2 pounds soaking wet. He sighs, wondering if he's commanding a gang or a group of starving scavengers. Just then, in the distance, the rabbit reappears, though it's anything but cute and cuddly. With sharp teeth and glowing eyes, it looks like a creature from the depths of a twisted fairy tale. The group, still half hungry and half daring, debates if they should take down the rabbit and have a quick meal before continuing their journey. But as they squabble over recipes, the leader's face starts to shift from eager to uneasy. Something about that toothy grin doesn't sit right with him. As he watches, the rabbit's eyes begin to glow an even deeper, more sinister red, and its mouth stretches into an unhinged, terrifying grin. The creature transforms before their very eyes, going from a potential dinner to the stuff of nightmares. Suddenly, it's not just a rabbit, it's a looming, menacing figure, far larger than they expected, with an expression that practically spells regret for anyone foolish enough to cross its path. The group's bravado melts away as they stare up in horror, realizing they've underestimated their prey. The leader's eyes go wide with terror as the rabbit, now looking like a creature bent on vengeance, glares down at them with burning red eyes, its grin only growing wider and more menacing. The hunters have clearly become the hunted, and the once hungry thugs find themselves hoping they won't end up as the rabbit's next meal instead. Meanwhile, inside the military base, Su Chen charges forward against the mutated beast. His movements are swift and calculated, every step building toward a powerful strike aimed directly at the mutated beast. As his punch connects with incredible force, shockwaves ripple through the air, signaling that this fight has just reached a whole new level of intensity. The beast roars in pain, stumbling back from the blow. Its massive jaws open to reveal rows of terrifying, razor-sharp teeth. The beast strikes back, but Su Chen, with a quick, fluid move, dodges its attack and lands gracefully on the ground. His eyes are sharp and focused. He studies the mutated beast, noting its tough exterior, its hide thicker and stronger than steel, and reflects with a wry thought that his usual strength isn't quite enough to break through this beast. A dull ache radiates from his hand, bruised from the force of his own punch, but his resolve remains unshaken. The mutated beast swings its enormous arm again, but Su Chen stands his ground, waiting for just the right moment to counter. In a flash, he leaps into the air, facing the monstrous creature head-on. Despite the beast's sheer power, Su Chen knows there's a way to bring it down, and he locks his sights on the parasite rooted in the creature's brain. But the beast has no intention of going down easily. Its tendrils lash out, wrapping around Su Chen, tightening their grip as he struggles to break free. The pressure intensifies, and for a brief moment, Su Chen can't help but think this beast is more stubborn than any he's faced before. Then, with a surge of raw energy, Su Chen fights back, his strength blasting through the tendrils in an explosive burst of light. The force of the impact lights up the room as he lands on his feet, surrounded by a shimmering blue aura from a taxing spatial jump. He admits to himself that this fight wasn't as easy as he first thought, but he's ready for whatever comes next. Just then, the same black cat emerges from the shadows, catching Su Chen off guard. He stares at it, puzzled by its sudden appearance, recognizing it from before, but now sensing something far more dangerous. The cat steps forward, eyes glowing fiercely, and flames begin to flicker around its body, making it look like a fiery spirit from a bad dream. Su Chen instinctively raises a hand, urging the cat to stay back, realizing this cat might be much more than it seems. The cat responds with a deep, rumbling roar, baring its fangs as the fiery aura around it intensifies. Su Chen reflects that this cat looks far less like a pet and far more like a full-blown mutated beast. Meanwhile, Lady Bag calls out for Xiao Fang, hoping he's okay. She peers over the wreckage, anxiously calling out to Xiao Fang, urging him to respond. He finally answers, assuring her that he's okay. She breathes a sigh of relief, visibly comforted to know he made it. Xiao Fang, grateful for his quick reflexes, explains that he narrowly avoided a far worse fate, escaping just in time. He casually waves off her worry, trying to lighten the mood, though he's clearly just as relieved as she is. Lady Bai steadies herself, just about to help Xiao Fang, when she catches something out of the corner of her eye, a sinister smile emerging from the shadows behind her. Sharp teeth glint menacingly in the dim light, hinting at someone, or something, far from friendly, lurking and biding its time. Lady Bai's heart skips a beat as she turns, alarmed, realizing they have an unexpected and dangerous spectator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Lady Bai, tense and unyielding, demands to know who's lurking in the shadows. Her voice cuts through the darkness, and a large man steps forward, his grin menacing as he questions if they were the ones who opened the gate. Lady Bai remains on high alert, eyes narrowed as she tries to gauge his intentions. Something feels off about this encounter, but she stands her ground, ready for whatever comes next. She studies the big man and his group before her. Her instincts kick in, and she realizes something deeply wrong with these people. She quickly warns Xiao Fang that these men seem mutated. Just then, these men reveal their true forms. Their eyes glow red, and wicked grins stretch across their faces, the once human features shifting into something monstrous. Their leader's face twists, transforming with sharp teeth and a disturbingly wide smile that sends a chill through the air. Back in the thick of the fight, Su Chen can't help but notice the black cat growing larger and larger beside him, like some magical balloon with an attitude. It's clear the cat is ready to take on the mutated beast, and Su Chen can't resist a wry thought that, after all, this cat and the mutated beast really seem like mortal enemies, probably fighting over turf rights. As the cat towers beside him, Su Chen puts two and two together. This clever feline had grabbed the crystal core on purpose, luring them all here. Now that the cat's seen what Su Chen is capable of, it seems to have decided he's a worthy teammate. Without missing a beat, he hops onto the cat's back, feeling like he's in some sort of heroic fantasy. The cat's orange aura flares up, and it lets out a low rumble that sounds suspiciously like it's ready to teach the beast a lesson. Su Chen, perched atop his fiery, slightly egotistical partner, readies himself for the clash, fully aware that this might just be one of the most unusual alliances of his life. Su Chen gives the black cat a friendly pat on its side, suggesting they take on the mutated beast together. The cat responds with a mildly annoyed meow, as if to say, "Fine, but don't expect me to like it." Before the cat can put up any further protest, the mutated beast charges toward them, only making the cat angrier. With a fierce swipe of its sharp claws, the cat strikes, but the beast barely flinches, its thick hide almost laughing off the attack. Assessing the situation, Su Chen quickly comes up with a plan. He gestures to the cat to circle around and keep the beast's vines occupied while he handles the main strike. The cat gives a reluctant meow, which Su Chen interprets as a grumpy fine before dashing to the side. The beast swings wildly, but the cat moves with such agility that it dodges easily, causing the beast to slam into the wall instead. The impact cracks the wall, and water starts trickling in through the damage, a new complication neither Su Chen nor the cat had planned on. The beast lashes out again, sending more vines toward them. But the cat charges forward bravely, swiping with its claws and tearing through the vines, clearing a path with surprising determination. Finding the opening, Su Chen leaps from the cat's back, aiming a powerful punch at the mutated beast. The impact creates a shockwave, forcing the creature to stumble back. The cat, eyes wide in surprise, turns to Su Chen with an expression that almost says, "Not bad, human." For a moment, Su Chen senses he's earned a bit of respect from his fiery, reluctant partner, proving that even a mildly annoyed cat can make one fierce teammate. Su Chen encourages the cat to keep darting around, attacking the beast from all angles. Together, they execute a series of perfectly timed strikes, wearing the creature down until it finally collapses, defeated. As the beast falls, it drops a glowing purple core crystal. The cat's eyes light up with excitement, practically grinning as it readies itself to snatch the prize. But Su Chen, quicker on the draw, grabs the crystal first, smirking as he claims it for himself. The cat's expression instantly turns sour, and it lets out an indignant meow, clearly annoyed at being outmaneuvered. Su Chen just laughs, holding the crystal up as if savoring his victory. Just then, the damaged wall cracks even more, and water starts pouring in at an alarming rate. Su Chen quickly scans the area and notices that the space outside the armory is now completely flooded. Realizing the structure won't hold much longer, he knows they'll both have to escape fast before the entire place is underwater. Turning back, Su Chen spots the cat struggling in the rising water, splashing around with wide, panicked eyes, letting out desperate meows as it fights to stay afloat. Without hesitation, Su Chen scoops up the flailing cat, suggesting it might be wise to stick with him if it wants to get out in one piece. But the cat, as stubborn as ever, wriggles and tries to escape his grip, looking both annoyed and panicked. Su Chen, amused by its defiance, lets it go, watching as it slips back into the water with a splash. Moments later, the same drenched cat is clinging to Su Chen's leg, now crying for help. Su Chen can't help but chuckle, picking it up again with a smirk. He gently reminds the cat that this time sticking with him was entirely his choice. The cat, now clinging tightly, offers no protest, apparently deciding that even stubborn independence has its limits when the alternative is drowning. Meanwhile, inside the crumbling building, Ladybag finds herself overwhelmed by the relentless swarm of Devourers. Frustration bubbles up as she wonders how these creatures keep coming back when they should have been defeated by now. Just then, Xiao Fang's voice crackles through the communicator, explaining his tank won't start and urging her to get out without him. Ladybag, however, dismisses his suggestion, focused on dealing with the immediate threat at hand. Amid the chaos, her attention is drawn to a twisted, rabbit-like creature with a sinister grin seemingly feeding off the energy of the fallen Devourers around it. To her shock, the creature grows larger with each gulp of energy. Suddenly, dark vines shoot out from behind this monstrous rabbit. Xiao Fang spots the writhing vines creeping along the ground and tries to warn Ladybag, but the vines are too quick. Within seconds, they've wrapped around her arms and legs, holding her like ropes, leaving her immobilized as the monstrous rabbit prepares to strike. The mutated rabbit looms over Ladybag, its massive jaws wide open, ready to devour her. Just as it lunges, Xiao Fang charges forward with his tank, ramming into the rabbit with the force of a metal battering ram. The impact slams the rabbit sideways, leaving it no time to react. With a fierce determination, Xiao Fang positions the tank's main cannon, tracking the rabbit's every twitch. The cannon lights up with a thunderous boom, sending a high-explosive shell straight into the mutated rabbit. The explosion is deafening, tearing through the creature's flesh and bone, sending bits of mutated gore flying in all directions. Ladybag stands frozen, momentarily stunned by Xiao Fang's last-minute rescue. Her heart is still racing, but a wave of relief washes over her, knowing that the danger has finally been obliterated. For a moment, she can't help but think that sometimes having a stubborn tank driver on her side isn't so bad after all. Meanwhile, inside the tank, Xiao Fang, exhausted from the intense maneuver, slumps back into his seat, catching his breath as he soaks in the victory. But before he can fully relax, a glowing green crystal core suddenly materializes above him, as if the universe has decided to toss in a bonus prize for all his effort. Xiao Fang instinctively leans forward, reaching out to catch it. It hovers for a moment, almost dramatically, before dropping down right into his mouth. But as soon as Xiao Fang gulps it, something unexpected happens. His eyes take on a faint, mysterious glow, a spark of energy flickering within them. Ladybag, nearby, notices his sudden change, her eyes widening in concern, as if she's watching someone accidentally bite into a pepper that's 10 times than they'd expected. Xiao Fang straightens up, feeling an odd sensation ripple through him, only to realize somehow he's managed to swallow the crystal core entirely by accident. He blinks, half expecting to feel some discomfort, but instead, there's this strange energy settling inside him, foreign yet oddly cozy. Ladybag feels a mix of shock and worry, clearly thinking that Xiao Fang's newfound snack might come with a few unexpected side effects. Meanwhile, the mutant cat nestled in Su Chen's shirt lets out a soft, almost pitiful meow, its misty eyes showing disappointment. Su Chen walks over and asks Xiao Fang if he has eaten a crystal core. He studies Xiao Fang with a thoughtful expression and steps closer, ready to support his friend through whatever bizarre side effects might come. The cat, still tucked in Su Chen's shirt, whimpers in a way that makes it clear it understands exactly what Xiao Fang just devoured, and it's not thrilled about it. Xiao Fang, still adjusting to the strange energy swirling within, voices his confusion. He frowns, almost disappointed, wondering aloud why he hasn't felt any surge of power, as if expecting some grand transformation but left with nothing more than a strange glow. Su Chen turns to Xiao Fang, explaining that if he wants to unlock any hidden powers, real combat is the way to go. Only in the thick of battle could those dormant abilities awaken. But Su Chen is quick to remind him that survival is the main priority right now. There will be plenty of time for battles later, but they need to make it out of here in one piece first. Just as he speaks, Su Chen glances over at Ladybag, noticing the torn edges of her dress and the fresh scratches marking her skin. A flicker of worry crosses his face, and he asks if she's all right. Ladybag gives a slight nod, casually brushing off her naked state with her usual calm. She firmly replies that she is fine. But there's a small hint of amusement that softens her face as her gaze drops to the little cat nestled snugly against Su Chen's chest. A playful question sparkles in her eyes, and she asks Su Chen if he is really going to pet this little black cat in the apocalypse. Without a moment's hesitation, Su Chen tells her that yes, he's keeping the cat, even if the world is ending. The cat, almost as if it understands his words, snuggles closer, content in its unlikely place of safety. Meanwhile, in the middle of a shattered street beneath the dim light of a battered street lamp, a woman hangs helplessly, bound and suspended in the air. Her body is slack, her clothes torn and smeared with grime, and her face is etched with despair. Nearby, another victim, just as trapped, struggles in the clutches of a gang of Devourers. These twisted beings thrive on fear and suffering, feeding off the submission of their victims like a sick craving. One of the Devourers looms over the woman, his eyes gleaming with dark amusement. He leans in, his tongue flicking out in mock tenderness as he savors her terror, as though it's a delicacy. The woman shudders, trying desperately to turn her face away, but her fear only seems to excite him more. She whispers a muffled plea, her eyes darting between the creature and the woman bound above, but her soft words only fuel his twisted enjoyment. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he bathes in her fear, his eyes glinting with twisted satisfaction, as though her every tremor was a song he longed to hear. Nearby, another devourer watches with a cruel chuckle, egging on his companion to prolong the woman's suffering. He encourages his fellow monster to draw out her cries as though her desperate screams were just another note in a dark symphony, one crafted purely from her fear. The woman struggles, her body straining against the ropes that hold her, trying to pull away from the hands that grip her tightly. Her voice trembles as she begs for her life, but the devourer simply sneers, mocking her in her weakness. He dangled a sickening offer in front of her, a twisted promise of survival if she can satisfy him, but should she fail, he warns that she'll end up like the lifeless woman hanging from the pole nearby. The woman's gaze shifts to the lifeless body, gently swaying in the breeze, a chilling reminder of the fate that awaits her if she doesn't comply. The woman's heart races, her voice trembling as she stammers out desperate assurances, hoping against hope to survive. The weight of his cruel words presses down on her, shattering her last defenses. Tears slip down her cheeks as she looks up, realizing that the thin thread of hope she clung to is slipping away, replaced by the cold reality of her situation. Her captor's laughter rings in her ears, feeding off her fear, a sound that twists the knife deeper into her already broken spirit. But suddenly, the low roar of a car engine pierces the oppressive silence, its headlights cutting through the darkness and flooding the street. One of the Devourers, startled by the noise, pauses, sensing a disturbance. He turns to face the approaching vehicle, his eyes narrowing as he nudges his companion. They exchange a quick, hungry glance, their eyes lighting up with excitement, the thrill of a fresh hunt. One of them mutters about dealing with this unexpected intruder first, eager to eliminate any interference before returning to their sick, twisted game. The car's engine rumbles to a stop, and Xiao Fang steps out, his expression hard, his posture tense as he sizes up the group of Devourer. One of them scoffs, sizing him up with a mocking sneer, dismissing him as just a foolish child interrupting their game. His companion, however, watches Xiao Fang with a sharper, hungrier gaze, licking his lips as he imagines the young intruder as their next victim. Behind them, the woman lies curled up on the ground, her eyes wide with terror. Her body is frozen, too paralyzed by fear to move or cry out, trapped in a nightmare where even the smallest hope seems out of reach. Lady Bai, watching from the side, glances over at Su Chen, who remains unfazed, casually playing with a little cat in his arms. Concerned, Lady Bai asks Su Chen that just moments ago, Xiao Fang had barely recovered from swallowing the crystal core, yet now, here he is, unarmed and standing alone, facing 3 menacing Devourers. Will he be okay? Playing with his cat, Su Chen tells her to relax, mentioning that it is okay, and he is right here to watch out. His thoughts, however, are far from idle. He reflects that if Xiao Fang is the Fengshen from his past life, who was known as the human nuke, he should manage. Su Chen knew the only way to unlock that strength was through real combat. He'd seen this before, the moment when a person's true potential emerges under pressure. Just as he looks back at Xiao Fang standing in the middle of the battlefield with a calm, unyielding expression, Su Chen sees no fear or hesitation, only a steady stillness, as though Xiao Fang is simply waiting for the right moment to unleash everything he's capable of. The Devourers, not wasting any time, charge at Xiao Fang, their cruel grins widening as they close in on him. Fists raised, they're eager to strike him down, each one more than ready to relish the moment. One of them taunts Xiao Fang, mocking his silence, while another sneers, vowing that today will be his last. But Xiao Fang stands motionless, his expression cold, offering nothing. There's no fear in his eyes, no trace of uncertainty, just an intense calm, like a predator preparing to strike. The first Devourer approaches, launching a furious series of punches, each one crashing down with the force of a sledgehammer. But Xiao Fang remains unfazed, his body shifting slightly as he absorbs the blows with ease. The battle is just beginning, and Xiao Fang hasn't even broken a sweat yet. The other Devourers join in, their strikes coming down relentlessly, each blow designed to break Xiao Fang. Watching from a distance, Lady Bai's worry grows with every hit. Her eyes stay fixed on Xiao Fang, her expression a mix of concern and disbelief. The Devourers unleash a brutal assault, and for a moment, it looks like Xiao Fang is struggling under the barrage, his body taking hit after hit. Lady Bai's face tightens with worry, Could it be that Xiao Fang was really being overwhelmed? But Su Chen remains calm, watching the scene with an unwavering gaze, a glint of pride in his eyes. He's still casually playing with the little cat, as though everything happening before him is simply part of the plan. With a quiet tone, he reassures Lady Bai, telling her that Xiao Fang isn't struggling at all. In fact, Su Chen believes that Xiao Fang is beginning to understand the true depth of his power, his strength starting to grow with each strike. As the assault continues, the Devourers' expressions begin to shift. Their initial excitement fades into confusion, and frustration builds as their fists land again and again, only to find Xiao Fang still standing, seemingly untouched. His gaze remains piercing, unwavering, his body absorbing each blow like it's nothing more than a passing breeze. One of the Devourers pauses mid-swing, his face morphing into one of complete bewilderment. He mutters in disbelief, unable to comprehend how Xiao Fang could take so many hits without a single injury. Their attacks should have shattered him, yet there he stands, unscathed. Finally, Xiao Fang speaks, his voice low and chilling, but carrying an unshakable confidence that sends a chill through the air. A faint green aura begins to form around him, swirling and intensifying. The Devourers watch in shock as the energy around Xiao Fang thickens, a dark, pulsating light surrounding him like a protective shield. Xiao Fang clarifies, almost dismissively, that it isn't that their attacks haven't affected him. No, he's been absorbing the energy from their strikes, pulling it inward, and transforming it into strength. The realization hits them like a punch of its own. Xiao Fang has turned their own power against them. The realization hits the Devourers like a shockwave, and panic quickly takes over. One of them stumbles back, shouting in a mix of anger and confusion as he tries to continue attacking Xiao Fang. But the green energy only grows denser, expanding outward in tendrils that stretch toward the Devourers, latching onto them like invisible chains. The energy begins to drain their strength, each Devourer feeling their own power slipping away as Xiao Fang's ability takes full hold. They grow weaker with every passing second, their bodies responding to the strange pull like a predator feeding off its prey. One of the Devourers gasps, his breath coming shallow as he feels his strength drain away. Another's voice rises in desperation, pleading for release, for the grip of Xiao Fang's power to loosen. But Xiao Fang's aura only tightens, feeding off their energy, growing stronger with each stolen breath. From a distance, Su Chen watches with a sharp, intent gaze, his thoughts racing as he assesses Xiao Fang's true potential. This wasn't just an ordinary ability. Xiao Fang is like a black hole, drawing in every bit of energy around him, consuming it with a hunger that seems limitless. His power isn't just defensive, it's offensive, making him an unstoppable force. Su Chen's mind reels with the implications of this newfound strength, realizing that Xiao Fang is no longer just the young man he once knew. He is something far more formidable. Then, without warning, a powerful arc of movement cuts through the air, fast and precise. A double-bit axe, gleaming in the dim light, swings in a sweeping curve. In one swift motion, the axe cleanly severs the heads of all three Devourers. The movement is so fast, so shockingly sudden, that Xiao Fang freezes, his eyes widening in astonishment as he struggles to process what just happened. The axe swings back gracefully, coming to rest in the hand of its wielder, a tall, imposing figure who steps out from the shadows, Captain Napoleon. Captain Napoleon's gaze is intense, his presence commanding. Behind him stands a small band of followers, their expressions unreadable as they silently observe the scene, waiting to see how it unfolds. Captain Napoleon takes a few measured steps forward, his voice calm but sharp as he addresses Su Chen and his group. He notes that if he hadn't intervened in time, they would all be devoured. He demands that as repayment, they need to hand over their food. Xiao Fang blinks in surprise, still trying to process his behavior. His mind is a whirl of confusion, unsure how to make sense of this unexpected rescue. Su Chen, noticing Xiao Fang's bewilderment, places a reassuring hand on his shoulder, guiding him gently but firmly toward the car. He tells Xiao Fang to wait inside while he takes care of something. Su Chen takes out a carton of food from his car and then approaches Captain Napoleon, holding out that sparse ration. Captain Napoleon glances down at the offering, his expression quickly darkening as he realizes it's nothing but dog food. Offense flashes in his eyes, but before he can voice his displeasure, Su Chen has already turned away, heading back to join Xiao Fang and the others. Without missing a beat, Su Chen gets into the car and drives off. Captain Napoleon stands there, fuming, watching the vehicle disappear into the distance. His jaw clenches in frustration. One of his trusted subordinates, standing close by, notices his anger. He steps forward, sensing an opportunity to speak, and suggests with a hint of irritation that Captain Napoleon had let a prime opportunity slip by. Why hadn't he finished off Xiao Fang while he had the chance? Napoleon's gaze turns even darker as he admits with a tone thick with frustration that he had indeed planned to eliminate Xiao Fang. But at the critical moment, the axe had swerved just slightly off course, missing its intended target. Trying to carry his captain's testis, this low-life thug speaks again, this time with a low and careful voice. He points out something unsettling, that the general seems to trust these new outsiders, Xiao Fang and Su Chen, more than those who have already proven their loyalty time and time again. Napoleon's eyes narrow, the weight of the words sinking in. Doubt begins to creep in like a slow poison as he thinks about the unsettling trust the general has placed in these newcomers. A small but growing sense of unease settles in his chest, and for the first time he starts questioning the strength of his own position. Now that Xiao Fang wields a unique power, it's clear that he and Su Chen are steadily gaining influence, inching ever closer to the heart of the base's authority. Captain Napoleon's expression hardens as resentment simmers just beneath the surface. If the general has lost faith in him, perhaps it's time to take matters into his own hands. His eyes narrow as his thoughts drift toward his ambitions, a cold determination settling in. The base, he muses, needs a new leader, someone who can command respect and maintain a firm grip on its future. He begins to envision the changes he would bring once he's in full control, his mind calculating every move, plotting the steps needed to seize the authority that in his mind should rightfully be his. Meanwhile, in the car, Su Chen glances over at Xiao Fang, his expression thoughtful, curiosity evident in his eyes. He finally asks Xiao Fang about Napoleon's intentions. Xiao Fang shrugs, barely looking up, and responds with casual indifference. He explains that Napoleon is simply like that, intense, watchful, always scheming. He advises Su Chen not to overthink things, it's just the captain's nature after all. While Xiao Fang seems unworried, there's a slight edge to his words, something that suggests he's not entirely as unaffected as he appears. Su Chen's mind lingers on the recent events. He realizes that if he hadn't intervened by throwing a stone to alter the trajectory of the axe, Xiao Fang would have been dead by now. His thoughts shift as his eyes flick to the rearview mirror, where Captain Napoleon stands a distance away, his piercing gaze fixated on their vehicle with unsettling intensity. Su Chen's instincts prick at the sight. This isn't just a petty rivalry or a grudge, there's something deeper at play. If Captain Napoleon is watching them with such ferocity, there has to be more to it. Su Chen senses a hidden agenda, a careful consolidation of power, as though Captain Napoleon is forming a faction within the base, planning to shift control in his favor. If Captain Napoleon is indeed plotting something as significant as a power takeover, Su Chen knows it's only a matter of time before he must confront this growing threat head-on. His grip on the steering wheel tightens slightly, his mind already working on what steps he'll need to take to protect their position in the face of this new danger. Meanwhile, at the construction site, workers move about swiftly, the clanging of tools and overlapping voices filling the air as they work on the towering wall. The structure steadily rises under the relentless efforts of the crew. Amidst all the motion, one figure stands out, Union. With practiced ease, she lifts and places heavy blocks, her movements smooth and efficient, as though the massive blocks were nothing more than a trivial burden. Watching her, the workers exchange glances of admiration and disbelief, murmuring among themselves as they take in her immense strength. One worker looks up at her with a grin of genuine gratitude and calls out across the site, thanking her for making their work so much easier. He jokes that with her around, they'd be able to finish the wall in half the time. The others nod in agreement, cheering her on and voicing their thanks. Their morale visibly boosts with her presence, and the energy at the site shifts, the weight of the task suddenly feeling more manageable. Union looks down at the workers, her expression humble yet slightly sheepish. She gives a small nod in acknowledgement. With a lighthearted tone, she admits that her strength comes at a price. She consumes a considerable amount of food to keep herself going at this pace. She chuckles softly, adding that she hopes the base can keep up with her appetite. Her words draw a few laughs from the crew, but some exchange amused glances, well aware that Union's small meals are anything but small. One worker, tears welling up in his eyes, quickly reassures her, his voice wavering with emotion. To him and the others, building this wall, their lifeline and shield against the dangers beyond, is worth any sacrifice, even if it means feeding Union's bottomless hunger. Just then, Union pauses, her expression shifting as something in the distance catches her attention. She squints slightly and recognition dawns as she spots the familiar shape of a car steadily making its way toward the site. A faint, warm smile touches her lips as she realizes it's Su Chen's car, making its way through the dusty road toward her. A yellow vehicle barrels through, startling nearby bystanders who scramble to get out of its path. The car skids to a halt with a sharp screech, its tires kicking up a cloud of dust as it comes to a stop. Su Chen steps out, followed closely by his cat, which leaps down with a bold and curious expression, eager to explore its surroundings. Su Chen, worried the cat might cause a bit of chaos, warns it not to run around too much, concerned it might scare the already anxious people nearby. The cat responds with a cheerful meow, clearly unbothered by the warning, as if to say, I'm here for the adventure, no matter what. Ladybag, coming out of the car, observes the cat with a confident stance, commenting that the cat looks thrilled, as if it hasn't been outside for a long time. Standing beside her, Xiao Fang asks Su Chen if he's worried about the cat running off. Su Chen, however, is calm and reassures them that with all the treats and care he's given the cat, there's no way it would ever run away. After all, it's getting the royal treatment here, something no other cat could find. Meanwhile, General Gao approaches, informing Su Chen that the empty warehouse he requested is ready. Su Chen glances at the building with satisfaction, confirming that it's perfect for whatever he has planned. Su Chen opens his spatial space and starts unloading all the weaponry he acquired from the military base there. The general's expression shifts from professional to one of shock as he realizes with disbelief that Su Chen has spatial abilities. The revelation leaves him momentarily speechless as he tries to comprehend the significance of having a spatial space. General Gao is surprised to see all these supplies secured from the military base. Rows of crates and resources fill the warehouse. Su Chen declares that with all these weaponries, the safety of a new base is nearly assured. General Gao turns to Su Chen, questioning why he had revealed his spatial ability in front of them. He could have kept it hidden. Su Chen meets the gaze of his teammates and assures General Gao that they're all in this together now and that mutual trust is key to their success. The group acknowledges this, with Ladybag affirming that without Su Chen's help, they wouldn't even have a new base to speak of. She steps forward with an idea, suggesting that the new base should be named Dawnlight Base in honor of Su Chen's contribution. In Japanese, Su Chen means the light of dawn. General Gao reflects that this name symbolizes hope and new beginnings, a fitting choice for their fresh start. He agrees wholeheartedly, expressing that it's the perfect name. Su Chen is slightly surprised by the quick decision. He reflects on the name and a somber expression crosses his face. He recalls that in his previous life, a base established by Gao had served as the last safe haven during the apocalypse. Now with this base named after him, Su Chen feels a deep sense of honor and connection to that past. Nearby, Su Chen's cat peers out from under a tarp, his curious eyes watching a group of doctors performing surgery with quiet intensity. One of the members praises Senior Duan for her incredible surgical skills, marveling at how effortlessly she handled removing the mutant plant threat from the patient. The atmosphere in the sterile, dimly lit operating room is tense but focused. Duan, with her striking pink hair and sexy costume, carefully holds a glowing, mysterious plant with surgical tools. Her colleagues watch her intently, some quietly expressing gratitude, acknowledging that this procedure wouldn't have been possible without her expertise. Duan gives a faint smile, while her eyes reveal a hint of wariness. She admits that while her skills are up to the task, the harsh conditions make it difficult to treat severe cases. The limited resources weigh heavily on her, and it's clear that the challenges of their current environment are taking a toll. Holding the scalpel with a determined grip, she expresses hope that clearing out the dangerous Devourers from the nearby hospital could provide them with much-needed medical supplies. Meanwhile, the cat watches her intently, its gaze darkening as the sight of the scalpel triggers unsettling memories buried deep within it. The sharp glint of the blade stirs something ancient, a hint of past trauma lingering in its intense stare. As the cat's memories resurface, a haunting vision plays out in its mind. It recalls a disturbing scene from its past, where a masked figure looms over a restrained cat, wielding a surgical blade with a sinister grin. Suddenly, the cat snaps out of its flashback, letting out a loud, distressed meow that echoes through the area. The sound catches the attention of Duan, who turns in surprise. She notices the cat's unusual reaction and senses that something deeply unsettled it. Her gaze softens as she looks down at the fiery-eyed cat, and a warm smile spreads across her face. Gently, she suggests the cat to come with her. The cat's eyes meet hers, and it seems comforted by her voice. Duan decides to wait for Su Chen's return before making any decisions to adopt the cat. She plans to ask if they can keep the cat as part of their team. With a sense of purpose, she cradles the cat in her arms and heads back to her apartment. The cat settles against her, and they both look forward to what lies ahead. She pauses for a moment, cradling the cat gently, glancing around the desolate surroundings. She remarks on the harsh struggles of survival, noting how difficult it is just to find enough food in these trying times. After a few more steps, she tells the cat that they are home. She holds the cat close as if it's already found its place within her care. She opens the door and introduces the space to the cat, a temporary shelter for them both. Just as she steps inside, however, a menacing shadow looms behind her, catching her off guard. A rough voice taunts her, suggesting about having some fun with him. Shocked, she spins around, her eyes wide with fear as she clutches the cat tightly, trying to process the sudden threat. Before she can react further, she's suddenly thrown to the ground with a startled cry, landing hard, but still holding the cat securely in her arms. The cat's eyes glow with intensity, unbothered by the tumble. She looks up in shock, trying to comprehend what just happened, only to see Su Chen looming over her, his menacing aura unmistakable. Su Chen smirks down at her, amused by her sudden realization. He tilts his head playfully and wonders aloud how she recognized him so quickly. Duanya, ever calm, simply responds that he's the only one immune to her psychic powers, making it easy to spot him. Su Chen grins slightly, finding her answer amusing, and nods in acknowledgement. Later, as Duanya relaxes in a bath with the cat nestled in her arms, she softly talks to it. She realizes that Su Chen must have brought the cat back with him and wonders aloud if the little creature even has a name. Her voice is warm and gentle as she holds the cat, admiring its unique markings. She suggests naming it Gold, inspired by the golden patterns on its fur. The cat responds with a contented meow, seemingly pleased with the new name, and snuggles closer, clearly approving of its newfound identity. Just then, Su Chen joins her, leaning in with a teasing smile. He compliments her on the name choice, but with a playful reminder that she promised to help him wash up. Duanya's eyes widen in surprise, caught off guard by his sudden shift in focus. The cat watches them both with wide eyes, its head turning from one to the other as they share a quiet, unexpected moment. Curious, Duanya asks Su Chen about his trip to the armory, wondering if he found anything valuable. Su Chen proudly reveals the mysterious crystal he retrieved from the mutated beast, explaining that with this item, he should be able to evolve into a level 2 human. The cat, still floating nearby, watches with wide, curious eyes. A flash of memory crosses the cat's mind, its gaze darkening slightly as it recalls that this is the same crystal core Su Chen obtained after their battle with the mutated beast. The cat's thoughts swirl with an unmistakable sense of entitlement. It believes that the crystal should rightfully belong to it. Its fiery eyes narrow, a flicker of frustration passing through them as it watches Su Chen proudly hold the crystal, as if it's something the cat itself should have claimed. It's as if the cat is silently protesting, thinking it fought just as hard for that. Su Chen explains that he stored the crystal core securely in his spatial storage. He confesses that the last crystal core he used filled him with an intense desire, so he made a special effort to bring this one back. Duanya, intrigued, glances at him with a curious expression, asking if he plans to consume the crystal now. The anticipation hangs in the air as she watches him closely, waiting to see what he'll do next. Su Chen consumes the crystal core and a powerful transformation begins to take place. His eyes glow a fierce red and energy surges through his body, outlining him in an intense, fiery aura. Duanya watches in awe and shock, realizing the sheer power radiating from him. She stammers, questioning if this incredible form is what it means to be a level 2 human. Even the cat stares with wide eyes, mesmerized by Su Chen's transformation, sensing the drastic shift in his presence. Duanya, breathless, stares at him, her face flushed as she tries to process the overwhelming power emanating from him. She calls his name softly, clearly captivated by the transformation unfolding before her. But as Su Chen draws closer and without wasting any other second engages her in an unlimited session of adult wrestling. However, the intensity of his new energy becomes almost too much for her to bear. Overwhelmed, she closes her eyes, admitting that she can't handle the sheer force and roughness of his merciless strokes. Meanwhile, Union stands on a rooftop, overlooking the city with a confident stance. She seems alert and ready for action, scanning the area below as if tracking something or someone. Her eyes are sharp, focused on the horizon, always prepared for whatever may come next. Back in the water, the cat suddenly lets out a loud, annoyed meow, its intense gaze fixed on something outside the window. It's clear that something has caught its attention even when inside there is a lot more going on. Its eyes narrow with a sense of impending presence or threat nearby. Meanwhile, Duanya is exhausted from the intense throbbing from Su Chen. She cries for help. She cannot take it anymore. Just then, Union peeks from the window. She watches Su Chen and Duanya with a mixture of frustration and jealousy. She calls out to Su Chen, upset that he returned without coming to find her. The tone of her voice is clear. She's hurt. Her expression is intense, and she doesn't hold back, declaring loudly that she's mad. Her stance and tone suggest she's determined not to be ignored anymore. In desperation, Duanya clutches the cat tightly, calling out for help to Union. Her voice trembles with distress as she reaches out with a pleading expression, clearly overwhelmed by the powerful energy that still surrounds her. She struggles to cope with the intense force that's filling the air and her own little cat down there as well. Union gazes at Su Chen and notices that he has somehow transformed into something great. She can't help but blush at the sight of Su Chen, giving Duanya the beating of lifetime. Su Chen is cloaked in a powerful, fiery aura that illuminates his entire body with intense, glowing patterns. His transformation radiates an almost otherworldly energy, leaving an imposing, awe-inspiring figure that seems far beyond human. The raw power around him is palpable, and Union, still processing the enormity of what she's witnessing, feels a mixture of awe and surprise. Noticing Union peeping them, Su Chen just utters one sentence that she came just in time. It's time for his second shift. Union jumps into the mix and Su Chen, currently acting like he's running on pure chaos or maybe a double dose of Viagra, dives back into action. What follows is a marathon of madness, and by the time rounds 2 and 3 are over, Duanya and Union both look like someone dragged them through a hedge backward. They're sprawled out like overworked hikers who didn't realize the trail was uphill the entire way. Su Chen, meanwhile, seems untouched by the chaos. His level 2 human energy makes him look like he's powered by some next-level cheat code. But deep down, he knows he's running dangerously low on one thing, the support of the audience. If only someone had clicked the like button, maybe the power wouldn't feel so one-sided. The others, however, are clearly out of steam, and it shows. Duanya collapses onto the bed, muttering that she's about to fall apart like an old chair. Union chimes in with a weak mumble, wondering if the side effects are supposed to be this intense. Su Chen finally notices the aftermath of whatever intense workout just went down. Looking at the two completely wiped out ladies, he scratches his head, almost sheepish. He offers an apology that, while sincere, comes with the awkward confession that he might have gone a little overboard on those crystal cores. Apparently, they were laced with enough magical Viagra to send his rocket straight to Mars. Union, catching her breath but still determined, declares that she and Duanya need to hurry up and enhance themselves, or they'll just keep getting steamrolled by Su Chen. Duanya, panting like she's run a marathon she didn't sign up for, asks Su Chen if his abilities have changed now that he's a level 2 human. Su Chen, looking at his hand like he's just discovered it can perform miracles, decides to give his new powers a try. First up, his physique-related ability. With a dramatic proclamation of steel body, a strong red and black aura surrounds him, and his body hardens until it looks like he could bench press a mountain. He proudly reflects that the abilities of the Berserker and Golden Snare King have fused, giving him skin as black and tough as steel. The energy circulating on the surface feels so intense that he wonders it's powered by subscriptions. Maybe the more people who subscribe, the stronger he can become. Curious and confident, Su Chen decides to release just a tiny bit of that energy. Unfortunately, his idea of tiny is like using a fire hose to water a single flower. The moment the energy bursts out, Duanya and Union, who are already sprawled out on the bed like overcooked noodles, go flying off like ragdolls. Even a little black cat gets caught in the chaos and lands with an indignant thud on the floor. The whole room echoes with a satisfying dum, leaving everyone in a heap of limbs and fur. Su Chen, clearly unfazed, chuckles while scratching his head, admitting with an awkward grin that his offensive power might still need a little fine-tuning. Su Chen, brimming with curiosity and a questionable sense of responsibility, moves on to test his next ability. He announces it's time to try his spatial powers. Reflecting on his previous limitations, he remembers he could only open spaces where he made direct contact. Determined to see how far he's come, he gives it a shot. Multiple small portals pop into existence right in front of them, like he's hosting his own magic show. With a smirk of satisfaction, he notes that he can now open several spatial portals within a 20-meter radius. It's progress, and he's clearly thrilled, though the ominous gleam in his eye doesn't go unnoticed. Meanwhile, Yumian and Duanya, still nursing their earlier misfortunes, sit by the bed, peeking over the edge with eyes that could burn holes through steel. Yumian mutters angrily to Duanya, both of them glaring at Su Chen like he's the biggest menace in the room. She accuses him of ambushing them, clearly not ready to forgive or forget the earlier chaos. But Su Chen, either oblivious or expertly ignoring them, shifts his focus to his ice ability. He reflects that while he could previously create ice blocks, he can now condense an ice layer on his body. It's not groundbreaking, but he shrugs it off as progress nonetheless, progress that might not save lives but could certainly keep drinks cold. Then a realization hits him. If he channels the circulating energy into the ice blocks and combines it with his spatial portals to attack from multiple angles, the result could mimic bullets that can come from any direction. His eyes light up with the enthusiasm of someone who's just discovered the cheat codes in a video game. Eager to test this theory, Su Chen sets his sights on a nearby vase. With calculated precision, he releases an ice block through a spatial portal. The block shoots out with incredible speed and shatters the vase into a million pieces. But it doesn't stop there. The force is so intense it punches a hole straight through the wall behind it. Su Chen pauses, scratching his head as he surveys the damage. Somewhere in the background, Union and Duanya exchange exhausted, exasperated looks, probably wondering if they'll ever get their security deposit back. Even the little black cat, who's seen more than its fair share of weirdness, looks thoroughly baffled, tilting its head in astonishment. Union, half-dazed, wonders if abilities are even supposed to work like this, or if Su Chen's just making up his own rules as he goes. Duanya blurts out that if he evolves a few more times, she might as well sign up to be his personal rocket launcher. Ignoring the peanut gallery, Su Chen moves on to test his final ability, mental perception. His eyes glow red like he's auditioning for a sci-fi villain role. As he reflects on the ability, he notices the range hasn't expanded much, but something new is happening. He can now sense every single cell in his body, almost like having inner vision straight out of those cultivation novels. The realization makes him feel both impressed and slightly ridiculous at the same time. Meanwhile, Union and Duanya watch him like he's just sprouted his second head, their expressions a mix of awe and what now. His body radiates a strange aura that feels too intense to comprehend, like he's about to ascend to another dimension or just accidentally set the room on fire. Then Su Chen senses something off. His instincts kick in, and before he can figure it out, he's suddenly teleported to a strange, empty space. It takes him a moment to realize, wait a second, it's his brain. And let's just say it's looking a bit sparse. He wonders aloud where he is, and just then a familiar smug voice echoes through the space, declaring that this is his conscious space, the metaphysical HQ of his brain. His stomach drops. A part of him immediately recognizes the voice. It belongs to the same gold digger, Jiang Xiaoqian, who betrayed him in his past life and apparently hasn't learned any new tricks, still scheming her way through this one. Out of nowhere, she appears like trouble crashing a party uninvited. Her evil grin is the cherry on top of this disaster sundae as she greets Su Chen with the enthusiasm of someone who just found their favorite toy. Su Chen stares at her wide-eyed, wondering how on earth she's here, especially since her body had already turned to dust. He's pretty sure people don't usually come back from being disintegrated. But she seems to be calling the shots in this strange space. Before Su Chen can react, her hair moves like it has a mind of its own, wrapping around his arms and binding him tighter than a Clini X. Su Chen tries to struggle, but it's clear she's in full control, and he's not liking this one bit. With a smug expression, she spills the beans. Turns out, when Su Chen swallowed her crystal core, he unknowingly gave her a cozy little home inside his body. Su Chen can't believe it. His face screams seriously. She gleefully explains that her essence is now fused with him, making her a permanent part of his life, whether he likes it or not. As if things couldn't get worse, she steps closer and places her hand on his chest. Su Chen feels the urge to yell, "Personal space, lady," but the situation is already way past awkward. He curses himself for falling into her trap yet again and realizes to his horror that none of his flashy abilities, steel body, spatial tricks, you name it, work here. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Union and Duan Yao are watching Su Chen like he's a malfunctioning robot. He's frozen in place, his expression blank, and they have no idea what's going on. Union waves a hand in front of his face, while Duan Yao nervously asks what's wrong. They exchange worried glances, probably wondering if he's broken himself testing out those ridiculous powers. Inside his mind, Su Chen demands to know what Jiang Xiaoqian wants now. She doesn't miss a beat, playing the part of the lonely damsel, though her tone is more sarcastic than sad. She steps closer, her fingers brushing his face, and Su Chen flinches like he's just been zapped by static electricity. She tells him she's been waiting for this moment, her words dripping with false sincerity. Su Chen glares at her, silently screaming, "Why me?" as he racks his brain for a way out of this nightmare. She begins to say something that's probably meant to terrify him, but before she can finish, Su Chen's brain finally lights up like a bulb. He remembers there's still one ability he can use here. Without wasting time, he summons his ice ability, forming a frosty rope that looks both beautiful and deadly, like something straight out of a DIY snowman murder kit. Before she can react, he loops the rope around her neck and yanks, forcing her to her knees. With all the flair of someone who's done this before, spoiler, he hasn't, Su Chen positions himself behind her and pulls the rope tighter, accusing her of trying to hijack his body. Jiang Xiaoqian, gasping and wide-eyed, wheezes something about how he's too strong for her to possess, but Su Chen isn't buying the damsel act. He shakes his head, more annoyed than anything, and apologizes in the most unconvincing way possible. His actions speak louder as he extends the rope further, wrapping her up like a poorly wrapped Christmas present. Now completely immobilized, she can't even twitch. Of course, she's not one to go down quietly. Through her muffled protests, she points out that just binding her conscious form won't get rid of her essence. Su Chen narrows his eyes and makes his next move, raising his hand as if to cast some epic finishing move. His idea? Freeze her in this space forever, like a villain trapped in a snow globe. Jiang Xiaoqian isn't done, though. Digging deep, she fights back, her voice laced with a mix of anger and desperation. She calls out that the conscious space level's the playing field, where she might actually have a chance. Su Chen groans internally. Just when he thought he had her cornered, her hair, because of course it's the hair, comes to life like some overenthusiastic octopus. Strains shoot out from every direction, wrapping around him like an all-you-can-eat buffet for nightmare fuel. Despite his struggles, the hair bundles tighten their grip, weaving around him until he's trapped in what can only be described as the worst sleeping bag in history. Encased in this hairy cocoon, Su Chen is left immobilized, and Zhang Xiaoqian, with her confidence restored, declares neither of them are leaving this place anytime soon. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button, as today's goal is 1,500 likes. Comment next part down below to see what happens next. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.